Lore Master Jito here. I'm the librarian of Azeroth, and I'm bringing you the lore straight from the books.
Today we're reading the third section of The Chronicle of Ages by the Chroniclers of the Broken Temple. This section covers Fists of the Heavens, weapons that can only be wielded by those who respect the power of wind and can maintain its balance. The last thing Azeroth needed, on top of all its other problems, was to suffer another elemental invasion. It was good that you cut down Typhinius so quickly. Had he gone unopposed, he might have become truly unstoppable once he mastered these weapons. But now the Fists of the Heavens are in your hands. You have a balanced heart. You seek harmony in all things. There is perhaps no other creature on Azeroth more capable of wielding this hurricane of power than you. It has not been long since Uldum was revealed to the world, and thus many fragments of the Tol'vir's history are still hidden from us. Still, it is becoming clear the Fists of the Heavens are some of the finest weapons their society ever crafted, and they are also some of the most dangerous artifacts the world has ever seen. There are tales of an ancient weaponsmith, a master without peer among the Tol'vir. His name was Irmat. His name is known to all surviving Tol'vir as one of the most exceptional minds to have ever lived in Uldum, and also as a cautionary lesson. Irmat was driven to create incredible works, but his pride turned out to be his undoing. The Titans created the Tol'vir to protect key locations across Azeroth. Over the millennia, some fell to the forces of darkness. For a very, very long time, Uldum did not. Irmat, its weaponsmith, worked tirelessly to arm his brethren with the finest instruments possible. For Irmat, his work was not simply a duty, it was his calling. He saw his hands as extensions of the Titan's will, and he wanted nothing less than to give his creations the ability to restore order to all chaos. He began to imbue his weapons with magic, using different sources of power to inspire him. The power of air, in particular, held a special interest to him. He secretly observed the Skywall, the realm of air and the elemental plane, and studied the way its creatures lived and fought. Irmat forged 4 scimitars, representing 4 extraordinary Djinn lords. And then, in a ritual that stunned the Tol'vir with its audacity, Irmat summoned and bound those very 4 lords within the weapons themselves. Their power now belonged to the Tol'vir. Irmat's 4 scimitars became highly coveted among Tol'vir warriors. Stories of their power rapidly spread, and messengers came from other Tol'vir outposts begging Irmat for more of those wonders. But the weaponsmith's satisfaction was short-lived. He had accomplished something great, but it was not perfect. Irmat had seen for himself the true elemental power of the Skywall. Even the captured might of 4 Djinns was but a light breeze compared to the ultimate power of that realm. Irmat carefully began crafting 2 new weapons. Not scimitars this time, 2 smaller weapons, one to be held in each hand. He named them Al-Burak and Al-Ra'ed, and he intended for them to control a power that, by its nature, could never be tamed. A little aside here, but Al-Burak and Al-Ra'ed translate to lightning and thunder. After Irmat forged his new weapons, he declared them to be his finest work. These Fists of the Heavens would be capable of commanding the wind itself. All that was left was to capture the ultimate power within the Skywall, the elemental lord Alakir. Irmat began the ritual slowly, not wanting to warn the Wind Lord of his plan. It took weeks of preparation, but once he was ready, it was over in an instant. The weaponsmith cast his spell, intending to open a portal to the Skywall and bind Alakir's essence. There was a great flash of light and a great rush of air, and when it was done, Irmat could feel his weapons, Al-Burak and Al-Ra'ed, trembling with elemental power. He believed he had succeeded. He believed he had accomplished the impossible. His surety was what led to his death. Of all the elemental lords, Alakir was known to be the cleverest. When Irmat captured 4 of his most prized lieutenants, the Wind Lord was filled with wrath, but he recognized an opportunity to exact vengeance. He suspected that Irmat's pride would drive him onward. When Irmat's spell concluded, he felt Alakir's power quivering. But it was not the elemental lord's spirit, it was Alakir's trap. When Irmot hefted his two weapons and tested the power within them, uncontrollable fury spilled forth. The weaponsmith, his forge, and a number of buildings within Uldum were destroyed by the hurricane of might that had been unleashed. The weapons themselves were hurled miles away. The unfortunate Tol'vir who first tried to recover them were similarly destroyed. Alakir had made Irmot's greatest creations unusable, filled with so much power that nobody could ever hope to control them. The Tol'vir carefully locked the weapons away, burying them deep. For millennia, nobody dared to touch them or repeat Irmot's folly. Alakir's lesson had been learned very well. Another aside here, Irmot actually ended up in Revendreth to atone for his arrogance. His Sinstone can be found just outside the entrance to Castle Nathria. The events of the Cataclysm changed Azeroth forever. Uldum was revealed to the world. The remnants of the Tol'vir came under assault. Alakir and another elemental lord were slain by Azeroth's champions. We have only begun to feel the ripple effects of those events. We do know that the death of Alakir left a power vacuum among the air elementals. His surviving subordinates went to war with one another, scrambling to secure leadership of the Skywall. None found any immediate advantage, for none were as powerful or as clever as their master had been. But one Jinn, Typhinius, sensed that there were still scraps of Alakir's power out there. The fists of the heavens would not stay buried much longer. Lingering rifts in the skywall allowed Typhinius to leave quietly and hunt for something that would elevate him above his kin. He let his senses guide him and was led to an empty, nondescript part of the desert outside Uldum. When he dug into the sand, he found what the Tol'vir had buried, the fists of the heavens, Irmot's last creation. Typhinius realized that, though Alakir was dead, the weapon's elemental chaos remained, but it seemed to be slightly, just slightly, more stable than when the Windlord lived. Still, when the Jinn first wielded the weapons, the resulting burst of power nearly destroyed him. But slowly and secretly, Typhinius learned how to keep his old master's power under control. When Typhinius returned to the Skywall with the fists of the heavens in his grasp, he immediately set out to end the air elementals' civil war. It was not simply his raw power that quelled them. They sensed the essence of their old master, and it compelled them to obey. There were those who refused, of course. Other Jinns believed they could band together and overcome Typhinius' borrowed strength. A huge battle nearly ripped apart the Vortex Pinnacle, and a brutal clash in the Temple of Assad saw tremendous losses on all sides. In the end, Typhinius was not the cleverest. He was simply the strongest, and he overpowered his enemies. He flung the spirits of those who had opposed him into the other elemental realms. Alone, they could not stop their natural enemies from finishing them off in a slow and agonizing fashion. Typhinius declared that he was the rightful heir to Alakir, and that he would finish what the Windlord had started. The war in the Skywall had caused more damage than Typhinius realized. It would take time for the air elementals to regain their strength and prepare for a full offensive. Typhinius had no interest in waiting. The moment he felt the Burning Legion invade Azeroth, he knew that the mortal champions of the world would be preoccupied. He told his minions that there would be no better time. The raids on Uldum began almost immediately. The fists of the heavens swept away all early resistance. Typhinius' assault on Uldum was a serious strategic error. The civil war had not long passed, and the fighting power of the air elementals was still weaker than it might have been only a few months later. The only advantage they had were the weapons Al-Barak and Al-Ra'ed. But even Typhinius had not mastered their true potential yet. He could unleash carnage, yes, but most of his efforts had to be spent keeping Alakir's fury from ripping him apart. Typhinius' pride was fortunate for Azeroth. His ambition drew attention, and it was that attention that led to the discovery of his plans. He launched his war too soon, and even these weapons could not save him. The history of these weapons is marked with pride. The power that they contain can only be harnessed by a balanced mind and a harmonious spirit. Any arrogance, any cockiness will inevitably lead to ruin for their wielders. But if you are already practiced in walking with the wind, the Fists of the Heavens will finally have a master who can make them truly legendary. And that was the Fists of Heaven from the Chronicles of Ages in the Monk Order Hall. Let me know your thoughts on the lore we uncovered today in the comments below.
If you're craving more lore, here's a few recommendations from the collection to browse. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to activate your library card and check out more books with me, the Librarian of Azeroth. Thanks for watching.